This is Electric Universe Geology Earth News. We're going to talk more about this area just west of Four Corners and this circular pattern that I see surrounding it and the similarity of materials. Again, these areas seem to be a signature of removal of sediment. And here, the Colorado River and the Green River would be bringing in the maximum amount of sediment during these floods and reverse floods into these valleys. And it seems as if you have a clockwise removal of this dust, heating it, making red hot dust available to stick to the surface downwind. Here you have the Grand Mesa, flat, 500 feet thick, I think it is, basalt, downwind. And there's a big lump of mountains over here that never made sense to me because they're not a circle, they're not a vortex that seems logical, but they're exactly downwind from what might be the thickest amounts of sediment being removed during this clockwise event. I just happened to spend my summer down here this last year in 2014. It's the San Juan National Forest, the San Juans as it's called. And it's just south of Gunnison. And it's a pretty special place. The town I stayed in is Lake City, which is over 9,000 feet high. And then from there you go up. That's in the valley. There's a lake there. It seems kind of logical. So let's look at some pictures and some charts concerning this area. Actually, we'll look at the map first. This is the area. The San Juans, Gunnison National Forest. Here's the Grand Mesa. This supposedly was a volcano that was responsible for a flow of basalt across this valley to the Grand Mesa, which doesn't make any sense at all. This just seems to be welded tuff formations, which would be misconstrued as volcanic because it's downwind. The dust might be hotter here and cool off to the point where you can get welded tuff formations with shapes to them. Here it's so hot it just makes a liquid coating on the top. And here's what we're talking about. You drive down here to Lake City, which is right about here, and they're round formations. I'll show you the charts now for that. This is a United States Geological Service map. You have Lake City up here. Here's the lake. And then you have this circular formation, which is a specific type of welded tuff, Lake City welded tuff. Here you have granite and rhyolite, but it's real circular. I went up here with a woman who has a master's in geology. She found it interesting. She couldn't find vents. She couldn't find real volcanic features, even though you have all of this welded tuff and it's considered a caldera. It seems to trend from the northwest, which is what you'd expect if it was part of that Four Corners event and the wind is going clockwise around it. So all of this around here is tuff, or most often welded tuff, with granite and rhyolite surrounding it. There's gold mines everywhere. It's just something that doesn't look volcanic if you look at it with eyes that say there might be another option, which geologists, again, of course, don't have. Now we'll look at a photograph. This is the south side of the circle. We're not in the yellow circle from the map before. This would be the edge of the yellow circle. This is the welded tuff up here. This is granite, I believe, and this is rhyolite. I was staying at a hostel in a dorm, and there were two gentlemen there, one from New Zealand going for his master's PhD in geology, concentrating on quartz veins, and then a friend of his who works in the map world, also a geologist, that was helping him. They were climbing up into these places every day. They were really in good shape. And they were studying veins of quartz, and there's veins of quartz in the rhyolite and the granite and in the welded tuff. And the explanation is there was geothermal activity in the past, not today. There is no geothermal activity now. And long periods of time, the geothermal liquids ran up through faults. They didn't follow the trending of the layers of the material of the mountains. They're almost at 90-degree angles to that. And supposedly it's geothermal finding weak spots that are not the layers of the formations. But if it's a shortened chronology, that doesn't work. You got to throw it out the door. And it really seems like the quartz veins are electricity going to ground, creating quartz veins in the process. But that's kind of another video. So one more photograph. So this is where the granite and the rhyolite come together. Supposedly this bubbled up and didn't make it to the surface. It was surrounded by sediment. And then separately, this bubbled up at a different time, in a different place. And then they sort of wound up next to each other by moving around. I believe that's what the geologist told me. This was some time ago. I don't want to misquote them. But I think that's pretty much the story. And then the welded tuff on the top is from a volcano that's not there. There's really no vents that you can follow back to see where the welded tuff came from. I think it came from the Colorado River drainage as excavated dust that was heated and spun clockwise downwind, creating the San Juans and the Gunnison Mountains. That's a really different interpretation than what you're going to read in the textbook. Thank you. I almost forgot this shot. This is Uncompadre Peak. I'm looking north. This is north of that yellow circle, but these are the welded tuff formations. These are 14,000 feet high. They stick up above everything. I believe a lot of it was flooded, and this was the result. Above the flood, you have welded tuff formations. Thank you again.